All right. Well, welcome everybody. Good morning here in DC, and good afternoon somewhere, and then maybe good evening there in Seoul, South Korea. My name is Mi-jung Hibit, and I'm Executive Director of the Global Chamber Baltimore and Washington, DC area. I'm very delighted to be your moderator today. Global Chamber is a worldwide business community with chapters and advisors in over 525 metropolitan areas, including many across in Asia Pacific. Our mission is to help members, especially micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, grow across borders through trade, investment, and collaboration. In 2023, we worked closely with the US APEC team during the US host year. We were proud to host our signature event with Ambassador Matt Murray, who was leading the US APEC at that time. We joined the APEC CEO Summit in San Francisco and celebrated many achievements of the host year. This year, APEC will be hosted by South Korea with the leaders meetings and CEO Summit coming up in late October. For me, that's especially meaningful as Korea is not only my birthplace, but also a country where I do business. Today, we are very honored to have a distinguished group of speakers and participants with us. Our goal is to look at APEC's growing role in global trade and investment during these uncertain times, and also looking at the upcoming 2025 summit in South Korea and how private sector businesses can engage and seize the opportunity across the region. We will hear from our speakers first, then move into the question and answer. So please feel free to leave your questions in the chat box. And if you like, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box as well. Now, to get us started, I'd like to welcome Mr. Tarun Chopra, Chair of our GCBWI Advisory Board. Tarun is a veteran executive in the insurance industry and truly a global leader. He's always on the move. He currently serves as a venture partner at the InsurTech Fund and also provides strategic consulting and guidance to several organizations. He participated in APEC CEO Summit in San Francisco in 2023 and brings valuable insight from that experience. So, Tarun, could you share your reflection on APEC 2023 and why you think APEC matters to us?
Thanks, Mi-jung. First of all, when you say a veteran, it makes me sound old, but thanks for the compliment. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's attending this webinar. I know it's pretty late in Korea and on the eastern side of the world, so I will keep it short and get to the agenda or the meat of the agenda as soon as we can. Mi-jung touched upon it, but I just wanted to reiterate the mission of Global Chamber, which is to engage and connect executives and leaders through warm, trusted connections and timely information to grow their business across regions and create success. So on behalf of Global Chamber, I want to welcome everyone to this informational session on APEC. When we hear about APEC, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, many people would picture meetings of presidents, ministers, or large corporations. But the reality is, or the truth is, that APEC is not only about big players. It has a direct impact on small and medium-sized enterprises, which is the backbone of every economy in this region. The SMEs make up about 97% of the businesses in the Asia Pacific, and they employ majority of the workforce. So when APEC truly works, it matters deeply to the SMEs. And I attended the 2023 APEC session, as Mijong mentioned, and if I were to summarize my learnings or the three reasons why it matters from a SME perspective, the first reason I think why it matters is APEC actually helps to break down barriers. From an SME perspective, which is entering a new market can be daunting, right? There are complicated rules, regulations, and different product standards. So when APEC economies work together to reduce these barriers, initiatives like the APEC cross-border e-commerce training and some simpler customs procedures actually give the smaller business the ability to trade beyond their home borders, often for the first time. This means that if you have a small business in Manila or Auckland, you can reach customers in Vancouver, Santiago more easily. So APEC truly helps break down these barriers for SMEs. The second reason is APEC also provides SMEs with or enable the SMEs with digital opportunities. We do live in a digital economy, but when you think of small and medium-sized businesses, they do not have that equal access when it comes to digitizing their business. Again, APEC provides platforms for knowledge sharing, digital literacy training, and policies that make digital tools more affordable and inclusive. Another example of that is there is the APEC SME Working Group, which focuses on helping entrepreneurs adopt e-commerce, digital payments, online marketing, to name a few. What that does is it levels the playing field for between small enterprises and the global giants. The third reason APEC really matters from an SME perspective is APEC does foster resilience and encourage innovation. As we went through the pandemic, natural disasters, and the supply chain shocks in last 5 years, it has a disproportionate negative impact on the SMEs because they are the most vulnerable. What APEC has done is it's emphasized, capacity building or access to finance and women entrepreneurship. What that has done is, if you think about it, those are not just abstract concepts. They really translate into mentorship, funding, and business continuity strategies that keeps not only the small businesses alive, it helps them thrive during or after the crisis. So, in short, APEC gives SMEs three very critical tools, easier access to market, the digital skills that they need to compete, as well as the resilience to survive these challenges that they face. So again, when you think of APEC, it's not just about a high-level trade policy, but it's also about giving the small businesses a chance to scale up and success or succeed globally. So when you hear about an APEC summit, it's behind every handshake, any policy statement, there are millions of SMEs that stand to benefit. And as I said before, when SMEs thrive, our communities, our jobs, our economies thrive as well. So with that, again, I want to welcome our speakers for today. We've got Monica Hardy-Bailey, who's the president of NCAPEC. We've got David Gosak, who's the principal at Five Hills Global Strategies, as well as Wanjun Lee, as he made his introduction earlier today. Our three very esteemed and knowledgeable speakers on APEC, and I want to welcome them on behalf of Global Chambers and hand it over to Monica to give us an update on an overview on what NCAPEC is, as well as APEC, and then some opportunities for the private sector engagement.
Thank you, Tarun, and thank you for to the Global Chamber. during 2023, the National Center for APEC was responsible for all of the outreach to the private sector, which is the heart of what we do. And Ambassador Murray would be so pleased to know that the Global Chamber there has continued its interest in APEC and engagement in APEC. I think this has been a really important set of stakeholders for APEC to be aware of. So I'm delighted to be here today. It is early in the morning here in Seattle, so if I trip over my words a little bit, I'm still waking up a little bit here. But if everybody can hear me, I will go ahead, and I have a PowerPoint that I'm going to run through very quickly, just because there are some of the slides that really I think will help illuminate what it is that APEC is. But just before I start that, as a quick note about what APEC's global role is, I think this is an important element that it's like the other end of what Tarun was talking about with SMEs and the critical role they play in APEC, and they do, and everything APEC does really impacts SMEs more than it does the larger companies, because they can always figure out how to get through those barriers, how to open those markets. But for an SME, that's a greater challenge. And I think that's one of the things that APEC does really well. The other end of that spectrum, I think, is the role APEC plays itself in global conversations. The G20, in the WTO, in the EU, even. There's a lot of ways that APEC can help, especially I think for the U.S. companies. I think they're very aware of this, that it helps support the kinds of pragmatic policies that APEC tries to achieve throughout other global fora as well. So it's not just involving the Asia Pacific, but it really has sort of tentacles out into the rest of the world as well. So a lot of the work that APEC does there. So I'm going to start the video if I'm fortunate here and I can make it work. I will start that. There we go. So this is really an introduction of the National Center for APEC and APEC itself. So it's like I said, some of the slides may not make sense, but I will lead through them. So the National Center for APEC is a private sector organization that is made up of mainly U.S. companies, although we have some international companies that are members of the National Center as well. And we focus on being that lever for private sector engagement in the APEC process. APEC itself, if you don't remember from Ambassador Murray's presentation a couple of years ago, there are 21 economies in APEC. They're listed here on the screen, including the years they joined, which is interesting. So the green ones were first, and it expanded out to the purples, and then the pinks and the oranges and the blues were the last ones. But the 21 economies of APEC, and that there are a number of observer economies as well. But for the foreseeable future, I think it is 21 that will continue to do this work together. But you'll see that there's, besides China, the United States, Japan, you've got Papua New Guinea and Brunei and smaller economies, and some that are real sort of like tiger economies, the Philippines and Malaysia and Singapore and Indonesia, that are so important in that region of the world. Vietnam is a very active member. So there's all of these economies are engaged in APEC in the different ways. So the National Center actually works through different networks and channels to engage the private sector in APEC. So APEC itself has, it's not just the once a year event that Gyeongju is busy planning and going to execute. I was in those shoes 2 years ago, so I know how very, very busy he is. It is and we're happy to partner with the KCCI this year to help with the APEC CEO Summit from the U.S. private sector perspective. But the APEC works all year long, and so there are quarterly officials meetings called senior officials meetings, and they just had a set of them in Incheon that were very, very important, including a whole digital suite of meetings and issues. They're talking about health in a couple of weeks, energy in Busan in a couple of weeks. So it's got a really wide range of topics that it covers. But we, as the National Center, help U.S. companies engage both with you're zooming in on the different elements there. But so we help the private sector engage through these different channels. For the first one is the APEC Business Advisory Council, or ABAC. The National Center is the secretariat or support mechanism for the 3 U.S. ABAC members. There are 3 ABAC members from each of the 21 economies that gather quarterly. Their inputs then go into the senior officials process and the ministers process. There are parallel senior officials meetings just after each of the ABAC meetings. And then ministerial meetings happen throughout the year. Korea was very ambitious, did quite a number this year. I think the total is something like 12 or 14. I don't know, Wonju can correct me. There are a lot of ministerial level meetings, and they're tremendously challenging to pull together because you've got ministries maybe that don't deal with APEC all the year long, suddenly are in charge and leading the charge. But it's a great way to bring together ministers that sometimes don't always meet on an Asia Pacific basis. So this is a really important element here. And we had the very first ever digital ministerial meeting for APEC that Korea hosted a couple of weeks ago. So the ABAC, so going back to the yellow level, will provide letters and input and recommendations to each of the ministerial meetings by a letter. And then they also prepare a report to the APEC economic leaders, who are the presidents, prime ministers, et cetera, of the 21 economies. And they will come together once a year at the large APEC Leaders Week event, which this year will happen in Gyeongju, Korea, and in October. So early November, it kind of bridges that week of the last week of October and the first days of November. So when there's the private sector wants to push forward a process in APEC, there's a step level process that can go through either the official process, which is the APEC economies actually present proposals themselves and sponsor them through the process. The ABAC prepares and proposes, sorry, lots of P's here, the various kinds of projects and initiatives that it is advancing. And then, but mostly there's either a paper or presentation, there's some kind of meeting either at the senior officials meeting itself, or a workshop, or at the end of the year leaders week. And there's usually inclusion in the ABAC recommendations to leaders if it's a private sector element. And then you might come out of that process with a publication, a workshop, some kind of event that brings it all together. So there we go. And then, so the ABAC right now is working on, you've seen these, but its own task forces, which are about regional economic integration, trade in the WTO, finance and economics, sustainability, digital and AI, and health and biotech. And the work that's broken up into those 5 categories feeds into the minister's process. As you'll see when Moon-Jun speaks, those 5 areas have been provide the structure of the APEC CEO Summit this year. So I think those are important elements. They've got leadership from different economies. New Zealand leads the regional economic integration. Japan is in the lead. Sorry, Australia is in the lead in finance and economics. China does sustainability. Digital and AI is Canada and Malaysia or Canada and Singapore, sorry, co-lead that. And health and biotech is led by one of the Korean ABAC companies. So it's the companies lead this, the companies from all over the region contribute to this process, and then they bring it forward to the APEC dialogue with leaders. The National Center is actually building some of these topics in the ABAC itself, and you'll see the list here. But you'll also see that there's a very wide range of topics that are going on. And then one of the things the National Center promotes really heavily is the idea that the private sector needs to be at the table. And we've done this for 30 years. So it started in Seattle in 1993, that this message that the private sector needs to be at the table when APEC works. And over the last 30 years, it has really developed into a dynamic process whereby most of the ministerial meetings have some sort of formal private sector dialogue that goes with it. So that's a real, I think there's issues like AI, some of these issues that are on the leading edge of what companies are talking about right now. And it really needs to have the private sector leadership, because a lot of folks in the government may not be up with the latest there. So I'll go through this quickly, but Korea's themes for the year focus on several different things, but their key priorities and deliverables are going to be talking about the demographics challenge, which is something that all of the APEC economies face. It's a great choice from their part. It really brings together health, AI, energy, all these different topics really come together under that theme of demographic challenge. And then they are pulling together a statement on artificial intelligence. These are works in progress, so be watching in October for more information on that. And I'm going to skip through this. There's a kind of a think tank for APEC called APEC. And then there's, but the big opportunity at the end of the year for private sector is the APEC CEO Summit. So in addition to all the ministerial meetings throughout the year, which touch some people, the CEO Summit is always a very large event. In San Francisco, we had, I think, 1,500 different executives that were delegates to the convention, and many, many more that were part of the whole overall process. I'm just really glad that Tarun, you got to be there to see that. It was a very exciting event. We had the leaders and ministers speaking and engaging with people across dinner tables and on panel discussions and various places. So it was really a dynamic event. And that's one place where, it's from the National Center's perspective, we're looking forward to now after Korea will pass the baton for APEC to China. So next year, all of these things, the ministers' meetings and the APEC CEO Summit, et cetera, will be happening in the People's Republic of China. So we're looking forward to their leadership there, and they will then in turn hand it off to Vietnam, who will then hand it off to Mexico. So lots of these economies that are just really key for US companies of all sizes to be aware of and engaged with. And it is really the moment for messaging and large international media presence. It's very densely packed. This year, the Korea's in fact expanded it by one day, but even those 3 days are going to be just densely packed with opportunities. And I know you'll hear more about that from Won-Jun, so I don't want to steal his thunder there. The one thing that the US business community does on the margins of the APEC CEO Summit is having smaller meetings with just the US business community and various leaders and ministers that we invite to brief with us. So small sort of roundtable discussions. If you are in Gyeongju, Korea, let me know, and we will be sure that you're involved in those activities on the margins of the CEO Summit. The CEO Summit really lets 1,000 blossoms bloom in a lot of different areas. So this is one of those side meeting blossoms that occurs. So this summarizes our channel, and I don't want to take up too much time. These are the companies that are involved in the National Center for APEC, and I'm sure there's lots of familiar names on there. But to Tarun's point, all of these companies have small and medium enterprises that are part of their supply chains, that are part of their backbone. And while these are the ones that fund the work of the National Center for APEC, the work involves and supports the work of SMEs as well. So I thank you, and thanks for sitting through a longer slideshow than I intended. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Monica, for amazing, very, very insightful presentation. As I said, if you have any questions for Monica, we'll have that answered during the Q&A session. So let us move to the next speaker. David Gosek. Tarun briefly introduced him, but I would say David is really the Asia authority. He previously led the U.S. Korea and then U.S. Japan Business Council at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So particularly, he will discuss more about the emerging opportunities for U.S. and Korea business and how APEC 2025 aligns with South Korea's new economic policies. So David, with that, please, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mi-jung, and thank you for the invitation to join this group today. I'm going to break my talk into 3 parts. The first is to briefly recap and update on the current U.S.-Korea trade discussions, which have been hyperactive the last couple of months and have a major impact on bilateral business investment and cooperation. Then I'm going to move that into the context of U.S. participation at the APEC Summit in October. Talk briefly on that. I think Monica and Wonjun can do more on that than I can. And then thirdly, talk about business opportunities and collaboration opportunities for U.S. firms in Korea and also with Korean firms in the U.S. So if you haven't been following the news, I mean, obviously the entire world is aware of the U.S. Engagement on trade policy with many countries around the world. Korea was in probably the most awkward position of any country because of the impeachment of their former president and basically not having an elected leader until early June this year. So throughout the spring, while many other countries were negotiating with the Trump administration on the tariff issues, Korea was really only lightly engaged. And they were going to be hit with a 25% tariff and then was suspended until the end of July at the 10% rate. When the new government came in early June, there was almost nonstop negotiations between the U.S. and Korea on the tariff issues. Of course, Korea's perspective was that they already had a free trade agreement with the United States and that most U.S. goods were going into Korea at close to 0%, if not 0% tariff. So they did not feel that they had the barriers that were the subject of a lot of other negotiations. But nonetheless, because of the very large trade surplus with the U.S., they engaged with these negotiations. And finally came right down to the wire. They were probably the last country to come to an agreement with the administration on July 30th, which included many ministerial visits to Washington and even to Scotland when President Trump was there to complete the negotiations. So the agreement that was struck at the end of July, similar to some other countries, but basically Korea has made this massive commitment to invest $350 billion into the U.S. We don't know the time frame, but obviously a huge number, particularly for a country the size of Korea. Someone was telling me that that's like 18% of their GDP each year. And then within that, it was a unique feature. And those areas of investment are supposed to be covering semiconductors, batteries, biotechnology, and nuclear power sectors were mentioned in the framework. Also within that, Korea has committed to what they very cleverly billed as the Make American Shipbuilding Great Again provision, which is now called MASGA, M-A-S-G-A. I think only Koreans could come up with something like that. But it struck a chord both with President Trump and Secretary Lutnick. But what this is to really try to help the United States in an area that's of key concern for the country and for the Trump administration, which is trying to revitalize shipbuilding in the United States, where we've, outside of military shipbuilding, we have virtually no viable and competitive commercial shipbuilding. So there's a $150 billion commitment from Korea to create a fund that's going to, in an undefined way, try to help revitalize American shipbuilding. And I'll talk a little more about that in my third part. And then they've also agreed to buy $100 billion in energy from the US. Mainly that's going to be LNG, but some other areas as well. In exchange for all that, they have received a 15% tariff on their exports or imports into the United States instead of a 25% tariff. So that is what was agreed to in early or end of July. And the timing for today's event couldn't be better because Korea's president is going to be coming to Washington and meeting with President Trump on Monday. And a lot of the loose ends that have not been really decided with detail will be discussed. We don't know how much they're going to focus on trade in this meeting because the initial goal was to focus on security and foreign policy issues, which are also very important, and focus on what's called modernizing the US-Korea alliance. So those issues are going to be discussed along with trade, but every day there seems to be a new trade issue that comes up. I mean, there's talk now that the US could announce a new sector-specific semiconductor tariff within the next few days. It could be, who knows, 100%. We don't know any details on that. There's talk about taking equity in semiconductor companies that are receiving subsidies from the US government, which has been in the news in Seoul because Samsung is a large recipient of that. So there's a lot going on that will be discussed at this meeting besides security issues. One of the things I don't know, I asked my other two speakers whether President Trump has formally said that he's going to attend APEC in October. I have not heard that there's a formal commitment. I know our acting ambassador in Seoul has said he would come, but I don't know that I've seen that officially stated by the White House. So that may come out of the meeting on Monday as well. In any case, as we look forward to October, as Monica mentioned, and the goals of Korea, are this summit is called Building a Sustainable Tomorrow: Connect, Innovate, and Prosper, and with an emphasis on demographic change and AI advancement in the region. For a lot of these areas, there's going to be an interesting discussion there, particularly the Connect portion of this is focusing on connectivity through multilateral trading system, and based on free and open rules-based trade. And that is going to run directly into that. I've seen the APEC statement on that from July, and that's going to run head on into what the US policy has been with many countries in the APEC region. And I refer you to the official statement on that is from the US Trade Representative, has an op-ed in the New York Times from August 7th, which is titled Why We Had to Remake the World Trade Order. So that discussion in October is going to be quite interesting. I think another area where the US is going to be heavily emphasizing is in AI. At the Digital Economy Summit in Incheon a couple of weeks ago, the US Representative Michael Kratsios from the White House, talked a lot about what the new American AI Export Initiative, which is announced last month and is currently being put together by the Commerce Department. But I think that's going to be a very big topic for the United States in October. This is it's kind of a project to put together what they call full stack technology provision for AI capabilities for export from the United States to countries around the world, but particularly within APEC. So there's a lot more to come on that. It hasn't been formally announced in terms of soliciting participants, but that will be a hot topic for the US in October. And then just let me briefly go to the third topic, which is the business opportunities for companies. First of all, for a lot of companies, there's opportunities to partner with Korean firms and supply Korean firms in the U.S. There's been such an investment boom by Korean companies in major U.S. industries the last 5 years, that Korea has now become, one of the top providers of FDI to the United States. We've got major semiconductor investments from Samsung, $37 billion in Texas, and SK Hynix in Indiana. We've got Hyundai has their Meta plant just opened for EV vehicles and batteries in Georgia. That's about a $20 billion investment. President Chung of Hyundai just committed another $21 billion to invest in the U.S. in March at the White House. And there are many, many others. So there are a lot of Korean activity in the U.S. In Korea, the priorities for the new president, President Lee Jae-myung, he's being called a pragmatic progressive leader, where he is going to focus on economic transformation and economic fairness in a country where there's been a lot of problems with economic inequality and cost of living, things we hear here, housing costs. And so he's going to have more social spending and also more antitrust enforcement. But the 6 pillars that or 7 pillars, or 6 pillars, 7 that he's focused on in the business area are AI, biotechnology, cultural exports, defense tech, energy, and by which they're mainly mean clean energy. So talking about clean, technology, including nuclear, and also what they call factory tech, which is going to be more, industrial internet. So those are some of the big areas. In terms of specific areas for U.S. firms that would be, we're going to align with some of that. Obviously AI present a lot of opportunities. Nuclear cooperation for companies in that sector presents a lot of opportunities. Defense tech is a really growing area, quickly growing. Korea is become a major exporter of a lot of defense equipment in Asia and now in Europe. And a lot of times they're partnered with U.S. firms or licensing U.S. technology. And we just saw that Anduril just announced its Korea operation this week, and they are partnering with, I believe, with shipbuilding firms as well. And two other areas I'll mention quickly are cybersecurity. That has always been a strong area for U.S. companies the last few years, and also crypto. Korea has a very active crypto sector. There are a lot of the major U.S. firms have been looking around in Korea about bringing their coins, but mainly stable coins there. So I think you'll see a lot of activity there. There's a lot more to talk about, but I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you very much, David. Thank you so much. As a person who's engaging in business with Korea, I cannot be more excited hearing about all this insight analysis from you. It's very great presentation. And now we have a third speaker, Wonjun Lee. He is with the KCCI, Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which serves as APEC CEO Summit Secretariat. So Mr. Lee, floor is yours. We have a little bit of a time crunch here. So if you make your presentation sweet and quick, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Mi-jung, and thank you, Monica and David, for excellent speeches and insights. Good morning, everyone. I am Wonjun Lee, a manager at the APEC CEO Summit Organizing Committee at the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Just a very brief introduction to my organization. ACCI is one of the largest economic organizations in Korea with over 200,000 members of all sectors and industries. So most of the SMEs in Korea are our members, and SMEs have a very special place in our hearts. KCCI is also the Secretariat of APEC Korea, and we are working very closely with NC APEC and the APEC process this year. I'm very excited today to share a bit about what we're preparing for the APEC CEO Summit, and I will try to go in as much detail as possible in the shortest amount of time as possible. So let me start. Okay. Okay, the 2025's APEC CEO Summit will be held in the city of Gyeongju from October 28th to the 31st. With a brief introduction, we're really excited to be hosting the summit in this very crucial time. And in fact, we've extended the summit from 3 days to 4 days, so there will be more time for meaningful introductions and meaningful networking. It definitely means a lot of work for us, but I think it's be more fun. If you look closely, the logo looks like people gathered in a circle, symbolizing connection and collaboration. It also takes inspiration from Cheongdae, which is one of the oldest observatories in the world and a proud heritage site in the host city. The theme for this year's APEC CEO Summit is Bridge, Business, and Beyond. The whole idea behind the concept of our summit this year. And let's talk about our host city, Gyeongju, for a very brief period. It's a truly special place, often called a museum without walls because of its rich history and its many UNESCO World Heritage Sites. But Gyeongju isn't just about ancient tombs and temples. The city has vibrant cultural energy, warm hospitality, and top-tier convention facilities. The venue is the Gyeongju Art Center, which can accommodate 1,300 people at once. The main hall, the Grand Theater, seats over 150 guests. Right next to it, there's a medium-sized theater with the room for about 300 people as well. This will be the place where the magic happens. So, and there are also some other places throughout the venue that will host networking events. And for our sponsoring companies, we'll be preparing exclusive lounges and booth areas. We'll be offering plenty of outdoor space, various and showcases that I'll go into detail briefly. Also, I'll be sharing this information with Mi-jung, so if anyone is curious, I'll share these presentation slides for you. I would like to speak about our event vision and expected outcomes. As we have developed this year's program, we asked ourselves a fundamental question: how can the APEC CEO Summit serve not just as an annual gathering, but as a true platform for progress across borders, sectors, and generations? Well, for the heads of state and government, this might prevent the valuable opportunity to elevate national priorities onto the global stage. For sponsoring companies, the summit offers a unique platform to elevate brand visibility and a good place to build strategic B2B and B2G partnerships. Most importantly, our top-tier sponsors will be granted exclusive one-on-one meetings with visiting heads of state that will be organized by the Secretariat. For global industry leaders and also inspiring businesses, the summit offers rare access to high-level networking with top policymakers and business executives. Now let's move on to the program. Let's move on to the program in more detail. One of the biggest changes this year is that we've expanded the summit from 3 days to 4, with a high-profile lineup of speakers from across the region and beyond. The summit will feature 20 sessions with over 70 speakers from around the world, and the sessions are designed around 2 key dimensions. This is a lot of information for you to digest, but think of it as a mix of the x-axis, which follows the CEO Summit's main theme, Bridge, Business, and Beyond. The y-axis reflects the focus areas of APEC's 5 working groups that Monica has explained. This structure helps us create a rich cross-cutting agenda, and this brings different perspectives and people together. But there's a lot more in store for participants beyond the main sessions. Let's take a quick look at some of these special events. First up is the welcome reception, which will take place on October 20th, the evening before the main summit. we can't reveal everything just yet, but today we have a very productive meeting with Hive, which is the company that BTS is affiliated to. And I think I can tell you for sure that some big stars will be at our event area. So you can definitely look forward to something. Also, we're working closely with our sponsoring companies to organize customized networking events throughout the summit. Breakfast meetings, luncheons, dinners, or evening gatherings will help tailor the experience to create the right setting for meaningful connections. This is one area that I'm particularly excited to offer more specialized opportunities for discussion. We're also introducing the Future Tech Forum, a special track dedicated entirely to technology. It will be led by global companies and cryptocurrency and more. All the industries that I think David has covered, and these are all industries that pose a very high probability of cooperation between the US and Korea as well. We're also hosting an exhibition called the K-Tech Showcase, where global CEOs can get a hands-on experience with some of the latest and most exciting Korean ICT technologies. It's not just about Korea, and companies from all APEC economies are welcome to take part and showcase their own innovations as well. Gyeongju isn't just about history, and it's also a major industrial hub. If you take a closer look, we'll be offering countryside tours so participants can see it all. The region plays a key role in the nuclear power industry, as well as the steel and battery production. This is a big part of what the city and this historic and also the industrial city this year. Also, in a very exciting event, we are also preparing a complimentary APEC wine and liquor fair for all participants. This will be right in front of the CEO Summit venue. Many APEC economies are known for their traditional wines and liquors, and this event will take outdoors at the Arts Center. We're a bit worried that people will get too drunk for the sessions, but I think this can be a good thing as well, as long as people enjoy themselves. One very special event that we are preparing for is the beauty and art sessions for visiting families as well. From Korean skincare treatments to laser therapy to a beautiful art exhibition, and there's something special for everyone visiting Gyeongju this year. The spouse program is very important because they'll probably be only one of the part of the summit, which nobody talks about tariffs or GDPs. And also our chairman, Chae Tae-won of the SK Group of Korea, has emphasized that in order for CEOs to visit Korea, they have to get permission from their accompanying persons. So we prepared something to facilitate the visiting of families as well. We're also opening a special dinner exclusively for spouses, a chance to relax, connect with others, and enjoy an evening that's as memorable as the main event. If you look at the lower right-hand corner, we're preparing a magic show, so I think that's something exciting as well. Lastly, we're offering guided tours that you really dive into the rich history and cultural heritage of Gyeongju and the surrounding. The history tour takes you through 1,000 years of culture in just one afternoon. This is a bit technical area of my presentation. Transportation options to Gyeongju. For many participants coming from Asia, the most convenient option is Gimhae Airport, which offers direct flights from China, Japan, Singapore, Vietnam, and other APEC economies. The second option is Incheon Airport for many of our US participants. And from Incheon, there are 6 domestic flights a day to Gimhae and 2 flights to Pohang Gyeongju Airport, both airports. If you have business before the summit, you might also consider taking the KTX high-speed train. And shuttle services will be provided from all major airports and train stations. In addition, KCCI will operate charter shuttles between your hotel and your summit venues to ensure everything runs smoothly.
Mr. Lee, we're reaching 9:50, so can you wrap it up in one or 2 minutes? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, accommodation options. We have secured over 2,000 rooms just for CEOs, and we are making sure that everybody has a place to sleep so they can participate in all their sessions. And one last thing I would like to emphasize is our website. Sorry. Our official website is open. Simply click the banner above to register for the 2025 CEO Summit. If you have any questions for the Secretariat, we are always checking our emails, so please do not hesitate to reach out. Our Secretariat is prepared to provide detailed and personalized consultations for your inquiries. And with that, I truly hope to see you in Gyeongju this October. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you. So now I would like to open the floor for questions from our participants. I do know that there was really packed information, but please feel free to use your chat box or the mic and ask your questions. And I do know David has to leave. Is that right, David, at 9:50? I can hear you, David. You're mute. Yeah, unmute.
Yeah, I can stay about another 3 or 4 minutes and then I'll have to leave.
Okay, so anyone has a question to David, maybe can go first. Anything about APEC or how, US as a US company to engage with the APEC process or CEO Summit? Please go ahead. It was such a great presentation. No one has any questions.
Mijang, while the questions come in, and I know you're limited in time, could the speakers speak to how companies should engage in this process? There's so much going on, but how do we support the success and progress that we hope and expect to see, particularly between the U.S. and Korea, but across the regions?
I could probably start on that one. There are a lot of angles for engagement, and I think that one is, obviously the National Center for APEC is one that we reach out to companies of all sizes, not just the large companies, through our events. And so if you want to be included I posted my email in the chat box as well. So let me know if you want to get more engaged, either as a member of the National Center or just someone who hears about our events and things like that. So we have an executive roundtable every year that focuses on what APEC for the coming year is doing. We coordinate, as Wonjun was saying, that we partner with the CEO Summit to help get people there. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to try to tackle those. Thanks.
Wonderful. Anyone else? Okay, Jim? No? Okay. I'd like to ask a question to David. Very straightforward and very simple questions, but I wanted to know. Let's say if your U.S. companies are engaged in as a supply chain for some of the key industries that you identified and you mentioned during your presentation. Between the US and South Korea, how as a SME can really engage in and capitalize those opportunity?
Yeah, so if you're again, as I say, that one of the big developments in recent years is just the scale of Korean investment and presence in the US has really expanded tremendously. So for a lot of Korean companies, they have business offices in the US, not only manufacturing facilities, but other business development offices where if they're looking for new technologies or new suppliers, they may have office in the US where you could reach out there, which obviously would be the easiest. And for example, in the startup world, most of the big Korean companies, they're called the chaebol, they've got venture companies, they're companies in Silicon Valley area that focused only on looking for VC investments or other sorts of collaborative investments in smaller US firms. So there's a lot of opportunity just in the US. If you're looking to get into a supply chain into Korea, that's tougher. I mean, a couple of choices would be to work. I mean, the most obvious one is to work with the US Department of Commerce office at the US Embassy in Seoul. That's their job, is to try to help companies, and particularly SMEs, try to identify pathways to partnership or to enter the market in Korea. So that's part of the Department of Commerce, US Commercial Service. They have the office in Seoul. There are also regional offices across the United States that can plug you into Seoul. So that would probably be the ways to kind of initially approach getting into a supply chain.
Wonderful. I'd like to add to that as well. We do have, as I said, 525 metro chapters and advice all around the world. We can help members as well through our warm introduction or connections as well. So it's more to the power. So please continue engage, with Chamber as well, Global Chamber as well. Any other questions, please?
And I have to apologize, Mi-jung. This is my time for me to head off to my appointment. So I want to thank you and thank
you very
everyone
much,
else
David.
for this today. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Please feel free to reach out. My email is in my bio that was in the event page. So please feel free to reach out if you have any follow-up questions. And thank you again.
All right, thank you. And I think that Chris has a question. You raised the hand. Chris, go ahead.
No, it was just clapping. Sorry.
All right, anyone else? Tyrone or Larry, do you have any questions to the panel?
I mean, I don't have any questions. I have been fortunate enough to attend one of the APEC events, as I mentioned earlier. So I mean, I obviously had a very phenomenal experience when I went over representing the SMEs. So I would highly encourage individuals and companies, if they can make their way to the APEC conference, then they should. And also something that I do want to point out, which Monica previously mentioned, there are other events or other opportunities to engage with APEC. So please feel free to make use of that. And it's definitely a very enriching experience.
All right, thank
There's
you
a
very
question
much.
from Mohammed that can companies from Turkey or Iraq join? I believe you can attend. You can join as an attendee. I don't think there's any restriction on that.
That's correct. Sorry, I was trying to find the right button to hit. Yes, there are the attendance at the CEO Summit is through the website that Monjun posted online and in the chat box, and it welcomes. There's companies from all over the world that participate in that.
That's great.
To just add briefly, no restrictions regarding nationality or region or industry. We are interested in hearing from all companies around the world. And I'd just like to add to what David said earlier regarding any business opportunities you would like to pursue in Korea. KCCI is also in a position to help you. We have very good relations with the US Embassy and also, of course, NC APEC, and also AmCham, which is the Chamber of Korea as well. So we would be more than happy to help out. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, for more information, how to engage, I think Global Chamber is here, KCCI, and then of course, the Monica, Nancy, APEC, all there. So we can provide further information. So please reach out. All right, so Mohammed, you already answered asked the questions, and then we answer. Any more questions? We don't have a lot of time left, but Mr. Lee, is just another question. Has the speakers all confirmed for CEO Summit? For example, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA was invited. Did he confirm? And then also curious, President Xi Jinping from China is confirmed to attend?
Thank you we are also very curious on that question as well. And we're hoping to lock in as many high profile speakers as possible. We've heard from NVIDIA Korea that Mr. Jensen Huang is considering this invitation very positively, and we are also waiting to ways. We're talking about ways in which we can facilitate his speeches and his participation in our summit, but as of now, I don't think I can give you confirmation as openly as I would like to. So that is that. Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of Korea is also renowned for his attendance at these events. So our fingers are crossed as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If there is no more question, I again thank you to our distinguished speakers for the wonderful presentation and insightful presentation and information. And for more opportunity, as we said, to engage with the APEC and CEO Summit, please reach out to speakers and then us here, and stay connected with the Global Chamber as we really link members across the APEC region. And again, on behalf of Global Chamber Baltimore, Washington, I'd like to thank you, speakers, participants, and partners for making today Globinar very possible and successful. Thank you very much, and then we look forward to seeing you at the next future event.
Great. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day, and good night,
Sure.
all.
Thank you.